Hello, Ian. Kimrao.
Hello, Professor. Hagama,
Gama.
Gamar Haguhain.
Oh, Hamigama, Hamigama. Yeah, I beckon this blaya. How's to be out on you? Beckon this blaya.
Misplaya,
Uh-huh. A warmer
warmer.
blaya.
Okay.
The we haven't gotten to it yet, but the comparative of blah,
Oh, I see. Okay. Got it.
blaya. Actually, it would be abluvaya, the past tense of warmer. Gaelic has an odd feature for the comparative. The adjectives are declined for time, like past tense, present tense,
You're saying
which
when you say declined, what do you mean?
like changed,
Just
I mean,
changed. Okay.
yeah, I mean, like like verbs have a past tense. Comparative adjectives in Gaelic have a past tense and a
I see.
present
I see.
tense. Yeah,
Okay.
which is very unusual. I ran that by a linguistics professor once, and he did a what? He'd never heard of such a thing. Yeah, so anyway, but
Did they have a future tense as well?
he uses the present tense.
Use the present. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. For the present and future, it uses the same tense.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay. That's something.
BA. Yeah, 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 yeah. One little tiny simplification.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. BA. Bien Nasblaya Amarach. It will be warmer tomorrow. Hi Nasblaya on Jew. So Nasblaya, so the same for the present and the future. So anyway, so things to look forward to. Hello, Tanea, Kimrao,
Hagama?
Fleva, Amitolicha, Amitolicha Reclunchen. I'm happy to hear. So anyway, okay. No, no sure. Uh, I like your shirt. That's very, very handsome pattern on it.
Tough a lot.
Okay. Anyway, so uh, well, we'll wait a couple minutes, see if anybody else comes. Who might we be expecting? I'm not sure, but Vel Kestik Dunismi, does anybody have a question? Questions? Question?
I was wondering about something you were telling Ian. The present tense and the future tense, they're the same. Is that only for comparative or like any, um, like,
No, yeah. Well, we were talking about the adjectives. Good. So, uh, and so Gaelic has an odd feature or unusual feature, uh, in that comparative adjectives like warmer, faster, stuff like that, are declined for time. That is, there's a difference between the past tense comparative adjective and the present tense. Okay, so highness blaya on Jew, it's warmer today. Va e nabuvlaya on J, nabuvlaya. Okay, as opposed to nusblaya. Okay, and yeah, and of course we'll get to the point that we learned that, but let me just we'll just if I can figure out how to share the screen. Okay, all right, okay. All right, okay. So uh yeah, so here's how it would look. And this would hold true for all okay. Ha a e Sgeulachd, nas blaya on Jew. Okay, so it is warmer today. Okay, nas blaya. So okay, so warm equals blah. Okay, va E nabu vlaya on J. It was warmer yesterday. So just a simple comparison or demonstration of what I'm talking about. You see, so nabuvlaya and excuse me, and then this runs across all adjectives. This type of formation versus nusplaya for the present and also as Ian asked me also for the future. Ba nusplaya amar. Okay, okay, so that's what I'm talking about. But we haven't gotten to the comparatives yet. So anyway, but Shinakate, there you have it.
Okay,
I have a
thanks.
question related to that too, actually. So it looks like, and maybe I'm wrong, are you using the feminine version of it
Yeah.
there? So what in the sentence is feminine? It's causing that.
What is feminine? Tanea, do you know?
Well, it was warm.
Yeah, what in the sentence is feminine? Because I'm using E.
Oh, maybe the day?
What?
The day? Or
Close. E equals on chicha, the weather,
oh.
feminine.
Oh,
You
okay.
see,
Okay.
so yeah, it's kind of hidden. Now, sometimes you might hear, a deferral to kind of default masculine, highness playa, high a playa. Sometimes you might hear that, but uh, but technically we're referring to the weather on chicha, also on amashir, which also equals weather, which is also feminine. So, yeah, so very often just even if it's not stated, it's referred to as feminine.
Okay.
Okay.
Good to
Okay.
know.
Though, as I said, nobody gets too excited if you kind of use the default masculine. Yeah. So hi a displaya, hi in displaya. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, good question. Kind of an unstated uh what genderization, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have to get used to thinking in those terms of like I'm referring to something. I'm not saying the noun in the sentence, but the noun is still gendered, so I have to use the gendered version of it of the
Right. Yeah.
sort
Well,
of
it's kind of
abstract
a
pointer.
yeah, kind of a what do you call it? Well, it's not explicit. You don't have an explicit antecedent.
Yeah.
The thing that the pronoun refers to, but you have an implied antecedent. Okay. Okay. So yeah, yeah. So anyway, Joe Kesht, good question. Yeah. Anyway, any other questions? Anything else come up? No. Okay. Okay. So who might we be expecting? Well, it's already almost 10 after. So anyway, so we don't have Isaac and I didn't get a email from anybody, but yeah, all right. Okay. Yeah. We'll get yeah.
I was wondering, when I started, there was another lady who took the class. Did she stop taking the class?
Who's that?
I think it was Denise was her name, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, Denise. Yeah, she hasn't been with us for quite some time. She had she had some personal issues.
Oh.
But she did request, and I still send her, the weekly lessons. So, so I think she's still following along. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So sorry. Yeah. Sorry that she can't attend.
No, I was
Uh,
just wondering because she kind of disappeared. I was wondering
yeah.
why.
Yes, she did. Yeah. 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 Along with the Seachdaine, along with the fairies, to the land of the fairies. Okay, okay, yeah. And do we have anybody else? Let's see. Not the. Let's see. Well, last week we had a one-time visitor, Jane, who was actually taking the class a little bit last year. I then requested information about this year and then popped in last week, but she's not with us tonight. So anyway, so yeah, so I'm not sure what's happening with her. So anyway, but oh, and I guess before I forget, I think we will break for summer sometime in June. Okay, so I hope that's okay, because people go away and, have irregular, not coordinated uh, times to go away and take vacations and do all that sort of stuff. So anyway, so um, uh, so so I'll let you know probably around, just to keep it even, around I think I'm planning for around, what is it? Week 35 might be our last session. And then let me know if anybody wants, conversation classes, more informal classes over the summer. I'd kind of be open to that, you know, so not so structured, on a lesson by lesson basis, but maybe conversation based. We'll explore conversation medium and stuff like that. Kind of have that in the back of my head to if if that's a phrase, okay, kind of thinking about the possibility of that. I'd be open to doing something like that. Okay, so um, and maybe inviting my intermediate class members of the intermediate class to take partake, and so so we get you know so if we do that, we'll do it maybe one day a week with the possibility that that it might be Tuesday or it might be Wednesday. Okay. Uh, would either one of those days be okay for you guys? Or
Yeah, I'd be free either of those.
either of those, yeah.
Yeah.
And you, Tanea?
I'm mostly free on Tuesday, but my schedule might be different. Next year I'm going into high school.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm talking about over the summer.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, probably be free both of those days.
Oh, free for both of those. Okay. Okay. And then, yeah, and then let me know if what your schedule might be for next year going into, starting in fall, for the intermediate class, because I have been holding the intermediate class on Wednesday. So don't know whether I'll continue that and then shift them, or because I do have some beginning classes, or I might, if Tuesday works out better for you guys, might make Tuesday the intermediate class, and then maybe the present intermediate class, the advanced intermediate class on Wednesday, so nobody has to change days. And then if there's a new beginning class, make that on Thursday. So all this is just all up in the air, but just rambling about some of my thinking. But okay, yeah. But if we do a korag, conversation sessions, yeah, I'll keep in mind that either day over the summer is good for you guys. Okay, all right, okay. And in which case it'll be kind of open invitation. I mean, you're not you wouldn't be obligated to come every week. If something came up or you went on vacation, just kind of open door and people will just come in and partake. Okay, so anyway, but that's but that might be what's up. Okay, Leva. Okay. Okay, and I think that's about all the business we have to conduct. So anyway, all right, so Gael-Talk. Okay. Liana Ahun, class Fichitsalk. Okay, 28. Okay, so here's Pipera is Konyev Nakaska. Okay, and the Easter Bunny, Konyev Nakaska. Okay, the Rabbit of Easter, Konyev Nakaska. Okay, all right. So, and I have a couple things in the Sgeulachd session tonight regarding the uh, 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 will one presentation regarding Easter in the Gael-Talk, and another uh, uh, with another West Highland tale. Okay, but we'll get to that. Okay, all right. Okay, and all the usual invite links. Okay, and just a couple. Maybe we'll just do the Scottish slavery. This was kind of interesting. Yeah, um, it's a short piece about Scots in the 1600s, and we haven't gotten to this in the history of things, but in Britain in the 1600s, there are all sorts of religious wars between the Protestants and the Catholics. And the Puritans in the mid 1600s took over for a period of 10 years. It was almost literally 10 years. And a fellow by the name of Oliver Cromwell leaded the Puritan army that took control of the British government, including Scotland. And so it was a very confusing time. It's difficult to follow, but it was a war between Protestants and Catholics on one part, and then people who supported the parliamentary government and people who supported, rule by royalty, by the monarch on the other side. So, so you had all these factions, going back and forth. And Cromwell was the leader of the Puritans. And I didn't realize this at the time, but evidently he took a lot of Scots prisoner who fought against him on the side of the king, and we have a short piece about what he did with them. So anyway, so let's take a look at that. Oh, stop the share for a moment, and then start the share, and make sure I get the sound. Okay, all right, okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, all right, okay.
Dunbar, 1650. Our ancestors were sold, not as a metaphor, as a transaction. Dunbar, 1650. Cromwell crushed the Scottish army and then did something history never taught you. He chained the survivors, thousands of Scots, branded, loaded onto ships, sold to plantations in Virginia, Massachusetts, the West Indies. Some were 15 years old. They weren't soldiers anymore. They were property. They broke their bodies building a country that would never say their name. And England made sure you'd never find out, because if Scottish blood is in the foundations of America, this continent wasn't built on one people's bondage. It was built on ours. They deleted us from history. We're still here. Share this before it disappears again. Follow Scottish bloodline. Our ancestors.
Anyway, all right, so that's let me stop the share for just a moment. Yeah, so that's kind of interesting. Now, you'll also see in history some mentions of the servitude of Irish who were captured by the English and sent off to the plantations. None of which is to draw an equivalence between what happened with Africans and and the Celts. There are some differences. One, after a period of time, the Celts, the Irish and the Scots, were able to blend in with the larger white population. Okay, and of course, as we well know, because of racial markings uh, and uh, and a not shared European background, the Africans and the descendants of the Africans weren't able to do that, and were condemned to perpetual enslavement. So so there is a difference. If not at the beginning, then how it worked out. But it's kind of interesting that the those dang English they can't stop. Somebody stop them before they enslave another people. So anyway. Okay.
Professor, that's also really interesting because I just learned in history something about the Ulster Scots, which were
Uh-huh.
also Scottish people, but who kind of also came as conquerors to America, not as enslaved people. I don't really know what the difference in history is and how.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the Ulster Scots. Okay, so they they largely came from the borders. So they weren't, for the most part, they weren't Highlanders. They were, I mean, not that not that I'm making a big difference about that, but they came from the borders and and settled in Northern Ireland by the British or the English government um, as a way to control at least a portion of Ireland against the Catholic Irish, the Gaelic Catholic Irish, and so then, um, as you say, a large number of them came to North America, and what's now, of course, the United States, and are known as the Scots Irish. So, Scots Irish or Scotch Irish, and those are the people that you hear of in history books. Forming a large part of the population of the settling population. And as you say, Tanea, they allied themselves with um, uh, with the British government, with the English and the wider white population, and served to conquer, and uh, uh, North America, and participated in the genocide, unfortunately, of the Native Americans. And so and those were the Scots Irish. Okay, and and we see descendants of them in large numbers and large concentrations. Well, in areas of the South, especially in the Appalachian Mountains, and one of the things uh, that's remarkable is the retention of culture in some of these places. There are elements of, say, Southern country music, and especially Appalachian bluegrass, that retains a lot of the sounds of the ancestral music, for instance. So anyway, yeah, yeah. But that's very true what you said. And so anyway, okay. And it's a curious fact, a sad fact of history, that very often it happens more than once that a people who has been conquered and oppressed very often does not learn from that, but uh, but turns around and treats other people the same way as they were treated. Sort of like the abused child grows up to become an abusing parent. Um, the And so there's this there's this saying in Gaelic, a Gaelic proverb, you know, remember the hardships, you know, of those from whom you came. can cúnicibh nan cruatal, nan dunya an tanaku. Okay, remember the hardships of those from whom you came. And it echoes the biblical injunction. I think it's an Exodus, either Exodus or Deuteronomy. Remember that once you were slaves in Egypt, and the injunction is not to treat other people like that. Yeah, because remember that one, so this is speaking to the Jews, right? The Israelites, so one of the reasons that I talk about stuff like this is that I think it's important for us to remember, hardships of our ancestors and and remember that this is us and the people who are today receiving the same treatment or suffering the same injustice and oppression, that's actually us. That's our experience. It's not just a matter of uh well, they did it to me, so I'll do it to you. I mean, so anyway, that's not learning anything. So anyway, okay. So we'll go on. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, oops. Now, where'd I go? Oh, I'm up here. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Share. Share. Okay. I want to share. Okay. All right. Okay. Come back here. Okay. Okay. So, Shanachana Shechana doesn't have anything to do with what we were just talking about. But anyway, so Hachik Asafach Akan Kale Visincha. Hachik Asafach will not come out of the pot, but the smoke that's in it. Okay? You get out of life what you put into it, figuratively. Okay? A variation of this might be Hachik Asafach will not come out of the pot, ach, but the food that is put into it. Okay, so anyway, so the general idea is, you get out of something what you put into it. Okay, okay. Anyway, so and right here, hachik will not come. The negative future of the verb hick. Okay, hachik. Okay, and then churach is the passive is put, and insha, the prepositional pronoun in it. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So hachik asafach akan keol visinsha. Okay. So great little saying. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So now tonight we're going to take a look at the past tense irregular verbs. So if you remember last week, we talked about the regular verb past tense, which is very simple. What is the rule for the here? So rather than me repeating it, I'll ask you, what is the rule for the regular verb past tense, the regular past tense? Do you remember?
Is it la night when possible?
La night when possible. Very good. Yeah. La night the root when possible. Okay. Yeah. Okay. La night when possible. And it's the root word, that we're leniting. And then there's a couple variations on that. There's a special form of lenition for vowel words, but anyway, very good. Okay. So back to share. Okay. All right. So, and when we're talking about regular verbs, we have the ed. Okay, ending in English. Okay, and irregular verbs we define as those that don't follow a simple rule. So see becomes saw, run becomes ran, think becomes thought. Okay, so and the same distinction exists in Gaelic, and we have the regular verbs and the irregular verbs. In both cases, if you know the rule for forming the past tense of the root word, you can create the past tense even with words you're not familiar with. Okay? And and I'll make a little note here. One of my favorite examples. If I give you a brand new word in English, wog, for instance, okay, and we don't know what it means, but you just know it's a verb, right? And if I tell you it's a regular verb, what would be the past tense?
Wogged.
Yeah, wogged. Yeah, wogged. But if it's irregular, you don't know what the past tense would be. It could be wag, wig, could be wog, maybe it doesn't change at all. Could be wuggle. You see, because it's irregular. Yeah, so that's the distinction between a regular and an irregular. The regular, you know what the past tense is. The irregular, you have no idea. You just have to learn it. As I mentioned before, we only have 10 verbs in Gaelic that are irregular. In English, there's something like 200, okay, which I'm sure drives uh, non-native learners of English crazy to remember all these different forms, okay? But in Gaelic, it's very simple, okay? Okay, so the simple past tense is, I'll put new verb, wog, okay? If it's regular, it's wogged. If it's irregular, it's wag, wig, wog, wuggle, whatever. Okay. Okay. All right. So anyway, uh, but in English or Gaelic with irregular verbs, this is not the case. You can't tell uh, what the past tense is because they're totally unpredictable. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So, okay. So, a reminder, the regular past tense, leniting the root, vrish, or the special lenition, here, okay, the DH apostrophe, okay, or chluch, I'll put chluch up here, okay, uh, or the special lenition, okay, like the ear, here, okay, or the what appears to be the non-rui becomes rui because you cannot lenite rui, the R, okay? So you have these special forms, but for the most part, well, even these are regular, because they're universal, okay? So even if they are not involved, the typical lenition, they're still regular, okay? Okay. And if you know the rule, you can work out the past tense, but not the case with irregular verbs. Okay, so with regular verbs, we learn a pattern. With irregular verbs, we learn them more as pairs. We have to memorize them. I'll put memorize. Okay, so for instance, the rock to go becomes chai, I went. Okay, okay, go, went. Fake, see, saw. Gin, do, did. Okay. And we'll get into the others, but that just gives you an idea of what it is that we're talking about. Okay. Okay. Now we already know one irregular verb, and that's to be. Be. Okay. Va is was or were. Va mi ek in school. I was at school. And in English, the verb to be is irregular as well. Okay. Now, uh, just because a verb is irregular in English does not mean that it's irregular in Gaelic. Okay, so you don't have that type of correspondence. Okay, uh, but there is well, as I said, there's only 10 verbs in Gaelic that are irregular, And in any language, the words that tend to be irregular are those that are used the most. Because if you only use a word once a month, it'd be very hard to remember the irregular form. But if you use it several times a day, like I did something, then it's open to being irregular, okay? Because you just repeat it all the time, or the verb, especially the verb to be. I mean, we're always using the verb to be, okay? And as we've seen in Gaelic, not only do we use it uh, for the verb to be, but we also use it in use with the verbal noun as a helping verb with the verbal noun. Okay, all right. So, okay. Um, and remember, these do not necessarily have anything to do with the verbal noun. The verbal noun is an entirely different animal. Okay, so, uh, uh, but uh, but eventually you will have to remember the root, and this is the dictionary form. The verbal noun, we've already been working quite a bit with the verbal noun, and the past tense. And eventually we'll learn the future tense, the simple future tense of verbs. Okay. So, okay. All right. So, uh, so right here we have how these things vary. The root verb, rach, is to go. Okay. To go. That's the root. What the root? Okay. Adol would be going. Okay. And chai would be went. Okay. And eventually, you'll probably want to remember these as a set. Okay. Start working on keeping them together. Okay. In your memory banks. All right. Okay. All right. So, anyway, so here's a table of the irregular verbs. So, rach, adol, the verbal noun, chai, went, rach, go, verbal noun, adol, clean, to hear, a chlinchin, hearing, chula, heard. Hick, verbal noun, achian, means to come. Hanek, came. Fike, a fechen, to see, seeing. And hunek, saw. Jen, a jenif, to do or to make. Rain, did or made. Aperth, a gra is the verbal noun. Say or hersed, said. Phi, a fian, to get, to receive, or even to find. Hur, the past tense, okay? Hor, a torsht, to give, to take, or bring. Hook, gave, took, brought. Bear, a bray, catch or bear. Okay. Rook, caught, bore, gave birth. And ruik, a rikshin, to reach or arrive. Ranik, to reached or arrived. Okay, so those are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Those are 10. And if we add the verb be, the verb to be, which means to be in English, to this, there are 11 irregular verbs, but usually we just say there's 10 irregular besides the verb to be, right? Okay. 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 And some of these verbs have a range of meaning depending on context. Jen can either mean do or make. Rain me moper, I did my work. Grainy cake, she made a cake. Okay. Phi, hur, can mean get, received, or find. Hermi leecher, I got a letter. Hermi nahuchen, he found the keys. Okay, so so you have a little range of meaning here. Okay, and as I've said time and time again, Words don't always map from one language to another exactly. Okay. Hook e lorgo, he gave me a book. Hook e anku law, she took the dog with her. Hooky it be yantai, they brought food to the house. And so, so you have a little variation in possible meaning there. Okay. Bear or rook often appears in two common senses, to catch or seize, bear a child, give birth. Rookie erval, or to catch a ball. Rookie lenif, gave birth to a child. Okay, and I'll make a little note here. Okay, note, rookuk is a very commonly used word for was born. Okay, rookuk a on an alapa. Okay, he was born in Scotland. Okay, so rookuk would be the passive used word. Okay, for was born, passive tense. Rookike on an alapa. So, so that's rook. Okay, all right. Okay, all right. So ruik, not to be confused. Okay, ranik, to reach or arrive at a place. Ranik sheen on Tai Fesker. We reached or arrived at the house in the evening. Okay, all right, okay. So, okay. Here are the basic forms with pronouns. Rain me, I did, I made. Hulatu, you heard. Chai me, I went. Hunaku, you saw. Hanak me, I came. Hirshte, he said. Hur it, they got. Hooke, he gave. Rook e, she caught or bore. Raniksheen, we arrived. Okay. And some sample sentences. Okay. Chaimi Yanvu. Yeah, so go ahead and say this after me. Okay. Chaimi Yanvu. Okay. Hulami Fuim Ounsantai. Hulami Fuim Ounsantai. Hanikiat Tra Savatan. Hanikiat Tra Savatan. Hunikshin Ian Ounsagarag. Hunikshin Ian Ounsagarag. Oh, spelling there, okay. Rainy Junior gonna clown. Rainy Junior gonna clown. Made dinner for the children. Hirste gnro a ski. Hirste gnro a ski. Yes, Ian?
On the one above that, the RINN, it sounds like you're saying it more like the English rain than rin. Is that right? It's not
Yeah,
rainy
yeah,
dinner, it's
yeah.
rainy dinner. Okay.
Rain, yeah, rain, yeah. Rainy Junior. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Clever. Okay. Hurmi chilach vuipa. Hurmi chilach vuipa. I got a gift from her. Huku on your goal. You gave me the book. Rook on ku erval. The coup, the coup. The dog caught the ball. Ranik Sheen Ambala Anamach. We arrived in town late. Okay. We arrived in town late. Okay. And then one thing to note here, I should have said it before, but I'll say it again. Again, if I said it before, if not for the first time, you'll note that the simple past tense and as well the future tense, unlike the verbal noun, takes the root noun. Okay, takes the root noun and the root pronoun. Okay, well, okay, so uh so uh so note the the simple past and future take the root noun and pronoun. So on rook on ku oh not at all rook on ku we'll say okay kur mie. Okay, I got it. Okay, kunik me e. Oh, onion. Okay, I saw the girl. Okay, so we don't make any changes to uh, the object of the verb, unlike the verbal noun. So the verbal noun is different from the simple form of the noun. Okay, okay, got that? Okay, all right. And remember, once you know the past tense form, use it with different pronouns, different subjects. Chai mi, chai u, chai a, chai e. Okay, and not only that, both all the other past tenses. Okay, and as I said, probably best to learn these as part of a family, as a little family. Rach, to go, adol, going, chai, went. Okay, all right, and so on and so forth. All right, okay, okay, all right, okay. Now, one little note, one little break you get is while there's 10 of these, the most common are the ones I've put in red here. Okay, so the little break is, there's only 8 that are most common. Okay. Chai, hula, hanik, chunik, rain, hurst, hur, hook. All right. Okay. Okay. Got that? Okay. So, uh, any, I'm going to get out of sharing for a moment. Okay. Any questions? Any questions so far?
I have a couple. So I guess just curiosity's sake, are these verbs also irregular in simple future tense or in future tense generally?
They're also irregular in simple future.
Okay, got it.
And we'll get to that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
Just curious.
Yeah, right. Yeah, probably in the next week or two. I mean, so we'll shift to the simple future. Yeah. But the same set
Okay.
of verbs, so I guess that's a simplification, right? You don't have to learn a different. Well, these are irregular in the past, but they're regular in the future, and these others are irregular in the no. You don't have to worry about that. They're just all irregular. Okay.
Okay, that's
Okay.
great to know. Yeah. I wasn't sure if we were gonna have, like you said, a different set, so that's good.
Yeah.
Um,
And they're also irregular in terms of how you ask questions or state the negative. Okay. But
okay.
but we won't do that tonight. Okay.
Okay.
What
Got
I
it.
just want to embed tonight is first the idea that they are irregular, and then start us on the path to learning what they are, and memorizing them, and and recognizing them when we see them. Say, see them in a story. All right. Okay. All right.
And then one additional question, and you can actually share screen for this one if you prefer. But I I should have asked this last week when we first started covering the simple past, but am I understanding correctly that there's no positive statement form of the verb be when we're asking or when we're making simple past tense statements?
Oh yeah, yeah,
There is.
va.
Oh, va.
Yeah.
I have simple past and past as different. Like I make tables
Wait,
all day, so
wait. Okay. So, darn it, now where are we? I have to, yeah, I want to share. Okay.
okay.
Okay. Share. Okay. So, uh, okay. So you're asking the simple past of the verb be, to be?
Yeah, exactly. Because I know that the past tense, like statement, negative, and question, vary
Yeah.
and
Okay.
stuff. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, uh, present would be ha. Past would be va. Past negative be charo. Future would be be, and future negative would be chavi. Okay.
so then where do we get into the difference between, for example, hado and haro in the past tense?
Charo.
And hado is, I think, one that we covered.
Oh yeah. No. Okay. Uh. Past question would be. Oh no. There's not a doro. Okay. Okay. Past question would be onro. Okay. The do um, is the particle marking marking past questions. Okay. So andovul u ambalach. Okay. Well, ambal. Ambala. Okay. Did you hit the ball? Okay. Okay. Andovulu. You see, so you have the ondo. That's where you get the do. Okay. All right. Okay.
So then where does on rov come in as the past
Um,
question form there?
yeah, the past question, unro. So for the past question, you do not use the do particle. Okay. For the
Okay.
for the verb to be. Okay, just for other verbs. Okay. Yeah. So
I see. I
yeah.
see. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
Patovu me ambala. I did not uh hit the ball.
Of course, because we're not using rov. We're using do to indicate the past of the other verb. Okay, got it.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
hatavu me ambala.
Yeah.
Hato. Okay, so here's where you use the do, but not not here and not in other irregular forms either. Okay. Okay, and some of them you do, okay? And we'll get to that, but for some irregulars, do is not used. Okay, so you'll um project did not go. Okay, so the jech is irregular, past tense, past question form of rach, chai, okay, and note no, do. However, Katorain did not do. Okay. Note the note do is used as well as not a further irregular form of the past tense for the negative. Okay. Okay. Yes. So we'll get to there, but just want to point out that the irregulars are irregular even amongst themselves. Okay. 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 So something like Chaisg, no do, but Hatorain, yes do. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So don't expect you to get all of it tonight. Okay. But as a matter of fact, as we get closer to our time for this session, for this particular part of the lesson, I think what we'll do is we'll come back to this next week. Okay, and continue to exercise. Okay, all right. And we'll go next week. We'll focus on the exercises. Okay, so how does that sound? Okay, so
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, yeah. So I understand it's a little complicated. So have all these individual forms to learn, and even though there's only 8, sometimes they have multiple forms. Okay, so we'll get into those next week. Okay, so and feel free to take a look at the exercises, see if you can figure stuff out on your own. But other than that, any questions about what I've covered so far?
I don't think so. Seems like a lot of memorization for this portion.
Yeah. Memorization and then going through the exercises.
Mhm.
So feel free to go back over the lesson, the written form, and of course I'll post the video, and I will hope that that's explanatory, and and so we'll just go forward and continue to work on these irregulars, the irregulars. Okay. Okay. All right, Flava. Okay, so now I've got a couple things. One is I want to I want to okay, one, yeah, okay. I think I can do this. I think I inserted this. Oh, no, I didn't insert it. Okay, all right, okay, hold on a second. I've got a PowerPoint presentation on Easter in the Gael-Talk. So let me do this. We're gonna can uh, oh, here we go. A Chaisg. Okay, all right. And I'll include this in the updated lesson plan that I sent you. Anyway, a Chaisg. Okay, that's Easter. Okay. First, explain where the word comes from. Okay. It's a Gaelic form of the Latin Paschal and the Hebrew Pesach, Passover. And it illustrates, a little linguistic lesson embedded in here. Oh, and you can see the screen, right? I'm sharing.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay. The migration of a P to a C. And the Q Celtic languages are Gaelic, Irish, and Manx. The P Celtic are Welsh, Cornish, Breton, and Gaulish. And just a little example. Mock, son of, mock, Welsh, mop. So note the C is a B. Gaelic, cown, head. Welsh, pen, head. Okay, so and this is kind of a not kind of, it's very typical shift. And it's not that the older Gaelic, the older Celtic languages, namely Gaulish from Gaul, which is current day France, um, was was the older language, and Gaelic shifted. Uh, and very often, what happens, or most often, what happens when you have a linguistic shift, the shift takes place over the whole range of the language. And we see this in many words and their differentiation that for some reason the the Gal forms, the Gaelic, Irish, and Manx shifted from P Celtic to what's called Q Celtic. Okay. All right. So anyway, well, that's where we get A Chaisg. Okay. It's really Passover or the Paschal. Like sometimes you might hear the Paschal lamb. All right. Some customs. Law of Rokenvor, Day of the Great Porridge. Law of Rokenvor. Okay. It's the Thursday before Easter. A large dish of porridge was made with butter and etc., poured into the sea. Okay, where rack, which is flotsam and jetsam, which is the debris from ships, which is very important to the island people, used to come. I mean, so the currents would, all sorts of stuff that would wash up on the shores, the island people would find useful. So they were sending the fruit of the land into the sea that caused the fruit of the sea to come to the land. So sort of a sympathetic magic. Okay, so there are other places in the Isles where people would pour offerings of whiskey into the sea to a spirit they referred to as Shawnee. Okay, and so and nobody knows what that Shawnee is. Whether it's some people speculate it could be John the Baptist, so kind of a baptism, or it could be a spirit or a god of the sea from the pre-Celtic times. But anyway, this practice of giving offerings to the sea was pretty widespread in the Highlands. Dhachaigh, Crucifying Sunday. The people say the sun dances on this day in joy for the risen Savior. Va'agrian orghiel a gerir skein am bain mora, agus I a chuchlach da uania, Perpi, Jedach, Chrá Jedach, Gael, Gílegael, agus Orthgael, mar glór ye nan dúd o Clángonia, a downsich aun an garstichus ri asri I slányahéir graich. Okay, the gold bright sun had risen on the crest of the great hills, and it was changing color: green, purple, red, blood red, white, intense white, and gold white, like the glory of God of the elements to the children of men, dancing in joy to the joyous resurrection of the beloved Savior. And this comes from a collection of hymns known as the Carmina Ghàidhealtachd. Okay, a collection of hymns and incantations collected in the Highlands. Okay, all right. So anyway, so Dhachaigh. Oh, and that's an interesting phrase, word. Crucify. Good Friday is called Dhachaigh, literally crucifying Friday. Not good. but the Friday of the crucifixion. An Chaisg, the dancing of the sun, the glancing and darkening of the sun on a fitful spring day was believed to be a warning that the most trying part of the spring is still to come. Gutu na Chaisg, the north wind of the Easter or spring. Okay, Gutu na Chaisg, proverbial expression of the common occurrence of bad weather to accompany the good. And so up in the Highlands, they're very used to what might be called a false spring. Okay. And so you had the north wind, Guatua, north wind north of Easter. Okay. A reminder to moderate excessive joy and put people in mind that the cares of life are not all past yet. Okay. So nature reminds us, okay, that just because it's a beautiful day today doesn't mean it's going to be the same tomorrow. Fàilte an Dhachaigh, a long spring after Easter. Fàilte an Dhachaigh. Gléir curam an Dhachaigh. A feast can be kept after Easter. So after Easter, kind of the go-ahead to have a feast. Okay. Easter holiday. Every egg that a boy could steal or lay his hands on unobserved was hidden by him in the thatch of an outhouse or in a hole in the ground. So the little boys would go out and steal eggs, okay, and then hide them. And on Easter Day, the children would sneak away and had a feast of pancakes and eggs. Okay, so they'd make pancakes and eggs, and the eggs were of no use unless they had been hidden or stolen. Okay, so they weren't any good if mom gave you eggs. Okay, you had to steal them. Okay, okay, partly because the little boys' manner of declaring independence from the adults, from the grown-ups, and also eggs in a religious sense emblematic of resurrection. Okay. But I'm sure that's not what the little boys were thinking of when they were stealing the eggs. And Machla Luan Kask, okay, from Alec, again another hymn from Carmichael, and it goes Machla Luan Kask, Easter Monday morning, moch early of the day of Monday of Easter. Chunna ersal, I saw on the ocean. And chunna is a form that you very often see instead of hunnock, which in the lesson for the irregular verbs is for saw. Hunnock is the technical form. Chunna is very often spoken form. Loch is Elenvan, a duck and a white swan, it's Elevan, a snav lechela, swimming together. Comerach vreach of thee, protection of Bridget Calm. Comerach voiler veen, protection of Mary Mild. Comerach vichel veal, protection of Michael Sweet. Rohin is gametal, for me and for my love. Gohin is gameto, for me and my love. Okay, so a couple notes here. Okay, so one is the close personification of these, you might say, mythical beings. Bridget and Mary and Michael, they have these very human qualities. Okay. And besides that, I always remark on Michael, Saint Michael, the Archangel Michael, so not just because is, what I share his name, but Michael, is the warrior archangel He led the armies of God against Satan and drove Satan out of heaven, according to, that mythology, right? But the Gaels referred to him as sweet, Michael, sweet Michael. Okay, which always seems to be, yeah, I don't know, a weird juxtaposition. Okay, and Matel, I think we've encountered this before. Atel, literally means calf. So, the calf, the young cow was dearly beloved amongst the Highlanders, okay, and used as a pet name. And I've heard it used today. I mean, well, not literally today, but in current times. I've heard Gaelic speakers refer to their children as Matel. Okay, my little calf. It's sort of equivalent to in English. Uh, um, Somebody might refer to their child or their baby as, oh, my little bunny rabbit, or something like that. Something like that. It's kind of a little pet name, kind of a sweet little name. All right. Okay. Anyway, so that's Caisg on Gael-Talk. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So now I want to share something else. This is something I'm working on. Just started working on it. And this is from a story from the Tales of the West Highlands, Bala Nanye Amadan, the Village of Idiots. So I have two versions. They're each about 5 minutes long. Okay. And if you would indulge me, I'd like you, so not only will you learn uh, this Highland tale, but there's two versions that differ. The language, I think, is exactly the same, or very close to exactly the same. It's the visual quality that is different, or the visualization that is different. And I'd like you to compare them and then vote on which you like better, which you think is more effective. Okay? So I'm going to go here and, oh, not that, but uh, okay.
There was once a young man who traveled to Sgeulachd to seek a wife.
Okay, so can you hear that?
Yes, we can hear that.
Okay, play it.
He married a farmer's daughter and soon settled into a small stone cottage alongside his new bride, her mother, and her father. One day, the four of them went out to the moor to cut peat. While they worked, they sent the young wife back to the cottage to prepare the food. When she walked into the house, she saw an old broken ladder hanging above her. She began to cry. She thought that if the ladder fell on her, it might kill her, and she stood there weeping at the possibility. When she did not return, her mother went to look for her. Finding her daughter in tears, the mother heard why she was crying and began to weep as well. After a while, the father came in, and he did the same. That night, the young man came home tired and hungry. He found the three of them crying together and pointed out that the ladder had not actually fallen at all. After they had eaten, he told them he would not stop traveling until he found three others who were more foolish than they were. He set out on the road and came to a house where three women were spinning. They told him that the people of that place were so foolish they would believe anything. The young man held up a ring and said he would give it to the woman who best deceived a man. When the first man came home, his wife told him he was ill. He went to bed. Then she told him he was dead, and he lay there without moving. When the second man came home, his wife told him that he was not himself at all. He believed her and went out into the wood, uncertain of who he was. When the third man came home, he went to bed. The next morning, he saw the coffin of the first man being carried past the window and jumped up to find his clothes. His wife told him he was already wearing his clothes. He believed her and ran out after the coffin. When the bearers saw a man running after them, they fled and left the coffin behind. The second man emerged from the wood, and then the man in the coffin spoke. Everyone ran away in fright. The wife won the ring, and the young man noted that these three were as foolish as the three he had left at home. Farther along the road, he saw a boat with 12 men in it. They were distressed because, whenever they counted their number, they thought one man was missing. Not one of them was counting himself. The young man told them he would find the missing man. He made them sit in a row and touched each one lightly with a stick, telling them to remember they were there. They were ashamed but pleased. Further on, he found people draining a loch to get fish. They found nothing but a single great eel. Thinking it was a monster, they seized it to carry it to the sea. He watched as they hauled the eel away. He had now seen groups of men and entire villages act with the same confusion he had found at home. On the road, he saw 4 people trying to put a cow onto the roof of a house. They wanted it to eat the grass that was growing there. He told them it would be easier to bring the grass down, and he brought the grass to the cow. At last, he saw people blaming a horse. They were punishing the horse for the state of their cart. However, the cow was sitting in the cart the whole time. To the young man, this was as foolish as anything he had seen on his entire journey. He realized that the people of Sgeulachd were very foolish, but they were also very funny. He decided to end his travels and returned home to his family. He arrived back at the cottage, no longer thinking of the broken ladder, but carrying a great story to tell.
Okay, all right, so there we've got that. And now I'm going to show you the same story in a slightly different visual style. Okay, so anyway, so let's see what we got.
A young man traveled to the district of Sgeulachd to find a wife. He married a farmer's daughter and settled into a small stone croft house, sharing the home with her and her parents. On the day of the peat harvest, all 4 of them went out to the moor. They worked the earth together until the family sent the young wife back early to prepare their food. When she stepped inside the cottage, she looked up and noticed an old, broken ladder hanging above her. She began to cry, terrified by the thought that the ladder might fall and kill her. When she did not return to the moor, her mother went looking for her. Finding her daughter in tears and hearing the reason why, the mother began to weep as well. Soon after, the father entered the house, saw them both, and joined in their despair. That night, the young husband came home tired and hungry. He found his 3 in-laws weeping beneath the ceiling. He pointed out that the ladder had not moved at all. After eating his meal, he announced he would not rest until he found 3 people even more foolish than his own family. Leaving the cottage behind, he set off down the road, determined to measure just how far human gullibility could stretch. His journey brought him to a house where 3 women sat spinning wool. They told him that the people of this area were so gullible they would believe absolutely anything. The young man produced a ring. He offered it as a prize to whichever woman could execute the most convincing deception on man. When the first husband returned home, his wife told him he was sick and sent him to bed. Once he lay down, she told him he was dead. Believing her, the man remained perfectly still. The second husband arrived, only for his wife to insist that he was not himself. Convinced by her words, the man wandered out into the forest, entirely uncertain of his own identity. The third husband went to sleep, and the following morning, a coffin was carried past his window. His wife told him that the dead man outside was already wearing his clothes. The young man watched these fictions take hold instantly, seeing how easily a few words could overwrite reality. Desperate to retrieve his garments, the third husband leaped from his bed and sprinted out the door in pursuit of the passing coffin. The pallbearers looked back to see a man racing toward them. Panicking, they dropped the coffin on the road and fled. At that exact moment, the second husband emerged from the tree line, still bewildered. From inside the abandoned coffin, the dead first husband suddenly spoke up. Hearing a voice from the wooden box, everyone scattered in terror. In the aftermath of the chaos, the clever wife collected the young man's ring. The young man saw that the outside world was, in fact, exactly as absurd as his own household. He continued on his way and soon reached the shore, where he found 12 men sitting in a boat. The group was in distress. They had been counting themselves, but the man tallying the group repeatedly forgot to include himself. As a result, they were convinced one of their crew was missing. The young man offered to find the missing person. He arranged the men in a row and tapped each one lightly with a small stick, telling them to remember that they were also present. The fishermen were embarrassed, but relieved to be whole again. Further along his journey, he watched a group of villagers laboring to drain an entire loch to catch fish. Their efforts yielded only a single large eel, which they mistook for a sea monster and dragged away toward the ocean. Down the road, 4 people were struggling to push a live cow up onto the thatched roof of a house so it could eat the grass growing there. The young man stopped, pulled the grass down from the roof himself, and handed it to the cow. Finally, he came across villagers actively punishing a tired draft horse. Meanwhile, a cow sat comfortably inside the cart attached to the horse, causing the actual problem. The people of Sgeulachd were foolish, but they were also harmless and highly entertaining. Having found exactly what he sought, the young man turned back toward his own cottage, carrying a great story home.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to pause for a moment. Okay. So, same story. So what would you vote would be the better visual presentation first?
I think my vote would be for the first one because the style of it matched the tone of the story better. But I'm curious to hear what Tanea has to say.
Okay.
I kind of like the second one because it was easier to follow.
Okay, what the visual presentation was easier to follow?
Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, Flava. And then my plan is, well, I've been searching for, now I know there's some unevenness in the consistency of the images, but I'm seeking a way that is not labor intensive to create, these presentations. And I found a piece of software that'll do, well, both of them come from the same piece of software. Okay. That will do it whole cloth. All I have to do is come up with the script and it'll fabricate the little video. So that's one thing. Now, my plan is to create a series on YouTube with these West Highland tales and probably paired one in English and then a separate one in Gaelic with English subtitles, so somebody could enjoy it just purely in English version of the Scottish tale or in Gaelic with English subtitles, to help learners of Gaelic. But that's what I'm that's,
Um,
yeah.
I wanted to say I've heard that tale before, but a little different. Instead of a ladder, it was an axe hanging on the wall, and they were
Oh,
scared it was
okay.
gonna drop. And one of the other stupid kind of people was a bunch of villagers were trying to get a moon out of a lake because they thought it was drowning.
Okay.
Kind
Okay.
of
Oh,
similar.
that's funny. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things to remember, these kinds of stories, these oral tales, uh, they can vary. There's no canonical version. I mean, there's no one right version. I mean, because these were collected uh, by a group of people organized under a man by the name of John Francis Campbell, and who later published them in Popular Tales of the West Highlands. And and he would go into the Highlands, or his people would, his researchers would, and just you know, uh, they'd hear that somebody in the next village had a story, and they'd go and they'd hear the story from him, and they'd write it down. And then he himself records that sometimes a different version of the story would be collected from somewhere else. So oral tales, even the same story, can vary. I mean, like Oh, like you point out, oh, Tommy Brook, I'm burping. I ate my dinner too fast tonight. Anyway, but the yes, but the stories can vary from location to location, teller to teller. So anyway, but so there's no one. We're very used to a piece of writing being definitive. I mean, this is the text, and we have to stick to the word. So, but we forget in earlier forms of literature there was a considerable amount of variability, and sometimes varied according to, the predilection of the teller, and sometimes the response of the audience, or responding to the audience, or fitting a story to the audience. Okay, so anyway, but okay, well, so anyway, so that's another story. So I think I told you a story. Nuri Esi Ruig, the king of Esirui, Uruag. Okay, also from the West Highland Tales. I showed you that story a couple weeks ago, and so this is another one from that same collection. So yeah, so eventually I hope to have a series of these Gaelic folk tales. Okay, okay. Anyway, so all right, so let's take a look at a song. Screen. Okay. Where are we? Okay, right here. Okay. All right. So it's Imichrut Dachunami. Many things that I saw. So now one of the reasons, I mean, it's a fun little song, kind of simple, but already in the first line, we have a couple of these irregular past tenses. So Imichrut Dachunami. That we'll see as technically Hunik. And arraign me, that I did. Imichrut arraign me. Okay, that I did. Okay, many things that I saw, many things that I did. Oh, oh, Malishko. Okay, anyway, so in Imichrut hunami amui figna haika. Many things that I saw outside all during the night. Imichrut hunami, Imichrut arraign me. Imichrut hunami amui figna haika. And then we go on, Hunami Napishigan, Napishigan, Napishigan. I saw the kittens, the kittens, the kittens. Hunami Napishigan, Espirus Macintyre, on the soldier's son's roost, on the roost of the son of the soldier. Spirus, the roost. So I guess that's the what the what the top beam of the house. Spirus Macintyre. Okay. Hunami Napishigan, Napishigan, Napishigan. Hunami Napishigan or Spirus Macintyre. Hunami Nakutigan, Nakutigan, Nakutigan. I saw the cuddies. Cuddies, oh, not the cuddies over here, okay. I saw the cuddies, Hunami Nakutigan, a Clúich alt Namoyana. Okay. On the I saw the cuddies play on Alt Namoyana. Okay. Well, the translation has Alt Namoyana River, but that's not really right. It's Alt already means a stream, and so it wouldn't be the stream of the Mill River. Okay, so so it'd be more like the Mill Stream. Okay, Clúichar Alt Namoyana. Chunami Nakutigan, Nakutigan, Nakutigan. Chunami Nakutigan or Clúichar Alt Namoyana. Okay, so a couple notes. Chunna, short for hunik, one of the irregular verbs we learned this week. Rain, another one of the irregular verbs, did. And kutigan, a cuddy, either a coalfish or a pollock, two similar types of fish. And here's an example of it. Okay, so the kutigan, a kutik. And Alt Namoyana, a wee stream on the Isle of Lewis. So here's Scotland. Here's the Isle of Lewis, and here's where Alt Namoyana would be, the little stream. Okay. Okay. Right here so here's the little isthmus, and that's where Altnamoyle now would be. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's go to the song.
Fàilte go Òran na Seachdaine cóla ramsa Josie Duncan. Hello and welcome to Song of the Week with me, Josie Duncan. Today we're going to be learning a song called Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, which is a Portia Bale. So the first line is also the title of the song, Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna. And the melody for this line goes like this. Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna. One more time. Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna. And now after this we have Seanfhacal Ruth around me. I've done many things. Seanfhacal Ruth around me. That's Seanfhacal Ruth around me. With the melody again. Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Seanfhacal Ruth around me. And moving on, we're going to repeat the title of the song again. Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna. And then we have Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. That means out during the night. Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. So together, this is line 2. Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. Now, when we put those two lines together, we have our entire A part. So I'm going to sing for you now the whole of the A part, which is Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Seanfhacal Ruth around me, Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Seanfhacal Ruth around me, Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. And again. Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Seanfhacal Ruth around me, Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. One more time for our A part. Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Seanfhacal Ruth around me, Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. Now moving on to our first B part, we have chunna na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine. So it's very repetitive, which is always helpful when you're learning a new song. That's our first line. Chunna na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine. And the melody goes like this. Chunna na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine. Chunna na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine. So you've seen a kitten. The second line of our first B part is chunna na Seachdaine spirish machcan Ghàidhealtachd. And the melody goes like this. Chunna na Seachdaine spirish machcan Ghàidhealtachd. Again. Chunna na Seachdaine spirish machcan Ghàidhealtachd. So our first B part is comprised of the lines chunna na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine. And the second one, chunna na Seachdaine spirish machcan Ghàidhealtachd. So now let's put that together. Chunna na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine. Chunna na Seachdaine spirish machcan Ghàidhealtachd. One more time. Chunna na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine, na Seachdaine. Chunna na Seachdaine spirish machcan Ghàidhealtachd. And now what we will do is sing the A part again, which we've already learned, but as a wee reminder, the words are Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Seanfhacal Ruth around me, Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Seanfhacal Ruth around me, Seanfhacal Ruth a chunna, Iomadh fog na Dhachaigh. Now moving on to our second B part, so we're over halfway through the song now, and once you have this, you have the whole thing. So our second B part starts with chunna mi na cútaigin, na cútaigin, na cútaigin. I have seen cuddies, 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 and cuddies are a type of fish. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cútaigin, na cútaigin. Chunna mi na cútaigin a cloich alt na mailne. I have seen the cuddies playing at the river of Alt na mailne. So the first line of the melody goes like this. You'll recognise this from before. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cútaigin, na cútaigin. And the second line goes like this. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cloich alt na mailne. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cloich alt na mailne. One more time. Remember, when you have this, you have the whole song. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cútaigin, na cútaigin. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cloich alt na mailne. So now we're going to sing the whole thing, remembering that every part repeats. So the structure of the song will go like this. Our A part, which is Seachdaine a chunna mi, Seachdaine a rain mi, twice. Then our first B part, which is chunna mi na pishakin, twice. Our A part, again with the repeat, Seachdaine a chunna mi. And then our last B part, which is chunna mi na cútaigin. So please sing along with me now. Seachdaine a chunna mi. Seachdaine a chunna mi, Seachdaine a rain mi. Seachdaine a chunna mi, Obair na Dhachaigh. Seachdaine a chunna mi, Seachdaine a rain mi. Seachdaine a chunna mi, Obair na Dhachaigh. Chunna mi na pishakin, na pishakin, na pishakin. Chunna mi na pishakin, spirish machen Ghàidhealtachd. Chunna mi na pishakin, na pishakin, na pishakin. Chunna mi na pishakin, spirish machen Ghàidhealtachd. Seachdaine a chunna mi, Seachdaine a rain mi. Seachdaine a chunna mi, Obair na Dhachaigh. Seachdaine a chunna mi, Seachdaine a rain mi. Seachdaine a chunna mi, Obair na Dhachaigh. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cútaigin, na cútaigin. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cloich alt na mailne. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cútaigin, na cútaigin. Chunna mi na cútaigin, na cloich alt na mailne. Thank you very much for singing with me. Cheers.
Okay. Where are we? Okay. Okay. There we go. Thanks for singing. Thanks for singing along with us. Okay. Anyway, so any last minute questions? Yeah. All right. All right. Okay. So anyway, next week, you'll see in the lesson that I send out, very similar to the lesson this week, we'll continue with the irregular verbs. Okay, and then we'll hammer those on until we got them. Okay. All right. Okay. So for now, Aikiba. Okay. Okay.
Good night, Oyahava.
Good night. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh,
Chitty.
Cheery. Okay, cheery. Okay. Aikiba.